Hi, I'm Naz Barouti, and you're watching The Red Booth Show.
Welcome to The Red Booth Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Q. On tonight's episode, I have a badass chick, Naz Barouti, who's not only a lawyer, but she's also a media personality and has her own radio show. So definitely come and join us and find out some very important information. So Naz, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited about this because you are just a badass chick who not only is a very professional lawyer, but you have your own radio show, and now you have a book coming out.
Yes. It's already out, actually.
Right, that's right. Your book is out.
It's out. It is on Amazon. Yes. Love, Death, and Money, A Woman's Guide to Legally Protecting Yourself.
Now, this is a really important story for me personally, because I'm a divorcee, and I had 3 children with my, prior situation, and
that's what we'll call it.
We'll
prior situation.
Well, I'm just gonna say that there's a whole lot of information that I think women should know before dealing with that, because it's quite difficult.
I 100% agree with you, and this book, I like to coin it as the legal Bible for women, because it doesn't matter what stage in life you are at, chapter will apply to you. So
right, it's not just for divorce. It's
no,
for everything.
It's not. And
right.
I don't want to single out the men out there, but you can literally take every story and just flip it and turn it into a man, and it will apply to you. But the reason I wanted to focus on writing a book for women was because I felt they were the ones that didn't have necessarily access to the information that a lot of men do because of finances, or they let their significant others kind of control the lawyers, the accountants. And with this whole Me Too movement, I wanted to do something that gave the power back to women and empowered them. And this is a guide that can help them if they feel that they can't use an attorney. It can just be an easy to read guide where if they can apply it to their lives or someone that they know.
Right. Well, I think it's really important because, for me, I didn't really have a career when I split. And so I didn't really have savings. I didn't have anything. I didn't have an income, and it was just okay, this is not happening now. I've got a new place that I'm staying. And what do I do now? Mm-hmm. And honestly, I didn't have the resources to hire an attorney. And also that when you're in that kind of situation, a lot of times you're not really looking forward to the divorce in the first place.
No.
And so that added a lot of time anyway for me. I was just is this really happening? So finally, after honestly a few years of living separately, I filed, but I had to search out a lawyer that would help me out, but I didn't have any money to give them. I mean, that's not easy to do. And it wasn't even an actual divorce attorney. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I don't know, it might have been a different story if I'd had a person that actually was a divorce attorney.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. Trying to find a good lawyer is it's like trying to find a good man in LA to date. I'll just be honest.
And that's not easy, okay?
That's another show.
Just kidding. But we need to talk about that on this show.
Off air. But no, really it is, because I think that it's already so intimidating to work with attorneys, because we have this lingo that no one understands. We don't even understand it sometimes, and then we make things difficult.
Latin. It's Latin.
We make things difficult so you can pay us $500 an hour so we can help you
understand
it.
I mean, the cheapest attorney is $300,
$350.
Yeah, I mean, it's and when you're in that situation, you're already trying to figure out, how am I just going to survive?
Yeah.
So a lot of women, I think, are underrepresented in that scene, and they don't make the right decisions, and they're not informed. And of course, I don't want anyone to ever be in that situation in the first place, to be honest. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy to have to go through that kind of a thing. So this is actually really good because it educates women so that they can be smart about things.
Yeah.
Just in everyday life and not put all of their eggs in one basket that's not in their control.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like preventative care. It's like when you go to a doctor and they're like, here, take your vitamins and exercise 20 minutes a day. This book is like, listen, if you're going to be in this situation, here's a cautionary tale so you don't make the same mistakes that this woman made, and making sure that when you're going into any partnership, whether it's romantic or for business, that you are protected. And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, how can I talk about the hot topic prenuptial agreement? And to me, I think that prenuptial agreements actually preserve the romance, because let's be honest, you know, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. That's number one. You can't really control what's going to happen. People change over time. There are marriages where people are together for 30, 40 years, and one morning one of them wakes up and says, hey, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be with you anymore. So for me, I think it's always better to talk about splitting your assets or finances when you are in love with someone, rather than talking about it when you hate them and you can't stand looking at them.
That never happens.
That's always my advice. And people are like, well, you know, I don't want to sign a prenup. Women say that a lot of the times, and I think there's a negative connotation associated with it. But if you really
honestly,
step
like when
back,
I think of a prenup, I think it's kind of rude. Like, how dare
How
you?
rude.
How dare you ask me for a prenup?
No, but you know,
I mean, I'm just kidding. But
it's
you know what I'm saying?
actually-
Like, it's got a stigma to it.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of a prenup is that the guy doesn't want, you know, to share his assets.
But that's not necessarily what it is.
I don't know. Okay.
No.
All right.
I
We
mean,
have to go to break though.
Yes. Okay.
but
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back and we'll talk about assets. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with media personality and attorney Naz Barouti. So we were just talking about assets.
Yes, we were.
We were talking about prenups, which
My favorite
I
topic.
think that doesn't sound very cool personally. So you need to
Oh, I
school me.
love talking about prenups. I always joke, because I tell people like I'm the Grim Reaper, because I always have bad news and I break up engagements because of prenups, but for good reason. So
Maybe that's good, because why do 50% of people get divorced in the first place?
I'm saving
Maybe
you
they should be
time.
a little bit more careful
Yes.
about who they marry.
that's why they should call
Okay,
Naz
I'm
Barouti.
being super not romantic right now, but I'm just saying, you know, there might be some reason for that.
Well, this is the thing. Prenuptial agreements are not about just signing off what's not owed to you. You can use it as a tool to say, listen, buddy, if I'm going to stay at home and I'm going to raise our family and I'm going to have kids and I'm going to take time away from my career.
That's right.
And I'm not building anything and I'm taking care of our family, because that is the hardest job on planet Earth, is to be a mother. Like a round of applause for any mothers, single mothers especially out there. And so you have to protect yourself, because yes, your husband is providing, but if that income stops and you haven't been in the work field in a very long time, you've lost access.
That's basically what happened to me.
you.
Yeah.
And you could have secured yourself. You could have protected yourself. Or you could have said, you know, for every child I have and for every year that I'm not working, I'm owed this much money. It's a negotiating tool. And I know it's not romantic, but
It's really not. I mean, let's like take all the fun out of it right now.
well, you know, it's also not fun talking about, hey, I have no job and I don't know what I'm going to do.
No, it's true. It's really not fun, because that's exactly what I went through. And I was, you know, scrambling just to keep a roof over my head.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really it was like I was almost homeless, you know? And I had to figure out how to keep the electricity turned on and feed my children. So it's unfortunate that that does happen. And I'm literally, I've heard this from many other women, because they're not prepared, and no one ever wants that to happen. No one ever expects that that's going to happen. And all of us are like, I would never get divorced, and totally against the concept. You know, nobody wants that to happen.
But sometimes it's not in your control. And
True.
I just want to take a moment to say how proud I am of you for just doing like a complete 180. And, you know, just you were at such a vulnerable point in your life, and you are a walking example of it can be done. With the right support group and, you know, mindset, it can be done.
Yeah, well, I would have been much better off if I knew what I was doing when I actually got divorced. And my whole life would have been completely different in the last 6 years, and my children's lives would have been better off, because my household would have been a nicer place to be.
Of course.
Which is better for them. So they've had to deal with the
The consequences.
The consequences of
Yeah.
me not having the financial stability that I really wanted to have.
Well, that's why I wrote this book, because I didn't want women to think that if they didn't have the money to pay for a consultation fee to see an attorney, that they were restricted and they weren't going to have access to it. A lot of people say, well, why'd you go to law school? I always wanted to be a lawyer, but I also knew that I never wanted anyone to mess with me. And I know that when you know the law, and you know how to work the law in your favor, no one can mess with you. And that's what I want this guide to be. It's like you are, looking 10 steps ahead. And that's my job as an attorney, is to see what can potentially happen to you. And now, if you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to go to an attorney's office, hey, you can just pick up Love, Death, and Money, A Woman's Guide to Legally Protecting Yourself on Amazon.com.
That's right.
And, it's an easy to read guide. And I threw out the lingo, the legal lingo, and I made it very simple to understand. So I hope that it's a tool that will be around for a while.
I think that's very important, that you also made it in like general layman's
easy
terms.
to understand terms.
Yeah, because most people just hear the legal terms and we just sort of our eyes glaze over and
snooze. Yeah.
But I think that's really cool, because when you're in that situation, it's not like you have $350 or $500 to just spend on an attorney. You just, but there are.
Yes, you still need me.
We still need an attorney. We still need an attorney. There's lots of women out there who maybe have a better plan. So if you have this book, it will help you. But it's not just for that scenario. It's also, you go into like things about estate planning.
Yes.
I think even funeral.
Yes. So I
I
talk about, as an adult.
Right.
So the minute that you're 18, what legal documents you need, to the point of, your husband passes away suddenly. So I talk about power of attorney, financial ones. If you're incapacitated, choosing someone to step into your shoes financially to make decisions for you. And people always say, well, I'm a 19-year-old, I'm a 20-year-old, I don't need to worry about that. And what I say in response is, tragedies and accidents don't discriminate against age, gender, race. So if an accident's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's not in your control. So you have to have the legal tools in place so that if you're incapacitated, you're letting people know, if I'm in this vegetative state, my healthcare directive says I want X, Y, and Z, or I don't want X, Y, and Z. Don't leave those decisions to family members or someone that may not know what was in your head and what you wanted. Make those decisions for yourself.
Like if I'm in a coma, then I'd want someone to pull the plug and
cremate you.
Cremate me. Yeah, sorry. Is it better?
What?
I'm so
what
hardcore.
Fun topics today. Woo!
This is exciting. She actually has a radio show and talks about all this stuff, by the way.
Yes.
Okay, we have to take another break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Naz Barouti. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with radio host and lawyer Naz Barouti. So we're talking about some pretty important stuff. It's kind of hardcore, I just have to say. Like, what do you do if you're in a coma? What are people going to do with your medical decisions when you're incapacitated? And what to do with your remains. Dun, dun, dun. This is exciting, right? It's like a party. It's like a party on the Red Booth right now.
Bring out the tissues and let's, cry about this. No. It's funny because I make people cry in my office, and I always feel so bad because I ask these questions and they get taken aback and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're asking me this. And
people don't want to think about these things. This is not an easy topic.
No one wants to talk about dying. No one wants to talk about being incapacitated. But these are very important conversations to have because you don't want to leave that burden on your loved ones. And sometimes they don't necessarily make the decisions that you wanted. I mean, if we look back at the Terry Schiavo case, she was in a vegetative state. Her husband wanted to take her off life support. Her family did not. And that case became such national news that the president got involved and they put her back on life support. And it's just like, why go through all of that when you can make your own decision and just communicate it to your family and loved ones so there's no shock when they get that document in their hands and it says, I don't want to be on life support, and pull the plug right away.
Right. That was a really crazy story. I remember, because they're like, it made the husband seem like he was being mean. Yeah,
because
he wants to take her off.
Trying to get rid of him. Yeah, rid of her, but
trying to get rid of her. But honestly, maybe he just knew that that's what she wanted. I mean, who knows? But that's why it's good for you to have a will.
Yes.
What other stuff do you go into in the book?
Well, I talk about, if you are a parent who, has to think about who's going to take care of your minor children. That one's a really important topic. If
Now,
you
most
have
people
kids.
just assume that their godparents are going to
No.
now take over their kids because they did a ceremony somewhere and then that's legal and binding, right?
No, that court is not going to just take into consideration what you did in your church as, who you named as the godmother or godfather.
That's a shocker, actually.
Yes, a lot of people don't know that. Or they think the grandparents are just going to be able to step in and take care of that child. The court still has to approve who the guardian is. And there's one particularly interesting story in the book where a couple passes away and an aunt steps in to take care of these young children, and she wasn't really in their life, and she lives a more conservative lifestyle, you could say. And the aunt that would just come for the holidays is now raising kids. It's like basically living with a stranger. So I always tell parents to make a list of the top 5 people that they would want to take care of their kids and see where the list overlaps. And think about education, think about religious preferences, even political preferences. I mean, now we're in a day and age where that's such a hot button, and parents want to raise their kids a certain way, and I totally understand that. So these are really important conversations to have, and especially if you're a single parent and the other parent's not around or they've given up their rights to the child, you want to make sure that you get in writing who's going to take care of the child.
Wow, that's a big deal. That's like, whoa, a scary thought.
Yeah.
But it is actually a really good point, and I think your book is something that will help make it easier for people to make these kinds of decisions and do what they need to do.
Absolutely.
Whew, okay. Well, what other types of things do you have to deal with? Because I know that you have your law firm. You do estates.
Yes, I do estate planning. I do prenups, prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements. I do
Postnuptial?
Yes. So believe it or not, you can have your significant other, once you're married, sign a postnup. It's a little harder to get them to sign it once you've trapped them, but
Once you trap them? Oh my God.
I'm totally joking. I'm just
Okay.
trying to make this a very fun conversation to have.
It's I just have to say, like when I got married, I totally didn't even think about money. Like it was like the last thing I was thinking of.
Oh, bless your soul.
Well, I'm just saying, like that's how it is, right?
Do you see the halo above her head?
When people get married, they're not usually thinking about that stuff. They're
No.
thinking about love. They're just thinking, I'm in love. I love this person. And what, Misa? Why are you shaking your head?
Listen.
Anyways,
I'm coming
just
across
telling
as
you.
like the lawyer that like
Yeah.
hates love, but I love love, but I also love the money that I made. And what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. That's
Well,
the way I think.
you have money though, like I'm just saying, like, anyways.
Yeah, but the more reason to protect it, right? If
Yeah.
someone comes into my life and I love them dearly, I don't know what's going to happen. Imagine like I've worked almost 10 years to build my practice, write a book, have a radio show, and I fall in love with this like George Clooney type guy.
You're gonna be the sugar mama.
And I'm gonna, I would never date any, okay, now it's turning into like who I would date. How did you flip the script on me right now?
Just kidding.
No, so I personally would not date someone that I can't.
That's a lesser financial status than you?
No, that is not a hard worker like I am. That is like the number one quality that I need. They don't have to make the same amount of money that I make, but they need to be.
See, now this is where women get called gold diggers. Like, just because we're talking
Yeah.
about we want a guy to have money, right?
No, I want a guy that's gonna work.
I just have to tell you, recently, I've literally had some just people I don't know, like men offered like
to take care of you.
to pay for things for
Sugar
me.
daddies.
Like sugar daddies, right? And I'm like, hell no.
So
I'm
they
like,
wanted you to be a sugar baby.
basically,
Oh,
right?
that's
I
so
mean,
crazy.
I'm like, this is really strange. But I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that. I want love. But I know that the stigma is, oh, if a woman cares about how much money you make, then they're a gold digger.
No, that's not. It couldn't be further than the truth.
Okay, here we go. We have to take another quick break, but we'll be right back with the Red Booth Show. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. We're here with Naz Barouti. And I just have to say, you are not a gold digger, okay?
Yes, can we write that at the bottom of the
She has,
disclaimer?
yeah, like a big, like, flashing, not a
Not gold
No,
digger.
she has her own money. She's, like, a very successful woman.
I'm a
very
certified girl boss.
She's right. That's right. So, but the whole point is that, people are thinking of love. They're thinking of love. Most people are just thinking of love. They're not thinking about what you're talking about.
Well, that's why I'm there to burst the bubble.
Yeah.
I'm there to burst the bubble.
The truth is that, you know, you don't ever expect this kind of stuff. You never, especially from someone who you've promised to live with for the rest of your life. You've given birth to their children. You never think that these types of things would happen. So just get yourself a little educated and find out about it. You know, it's not a bad thing to protect yourself. And I don't really know how much you can protect yourself, but I guess you have to find out by reading the book.
Yes, you do. Well, I hope I didn't come across as, you know, love sucks. I just come across as I've seen couples that have been so in love and then they're in my office 6 months later wanting to kill each other, you know? So I just want to protect my clients, and especially women that feel that they don't have the power to protect themselves.
Well, I think when you've spent most of your time raising babies and children and you're kind of like focused as a mother and you're, you know, a stay-at-home mom, your mindset is just all about that. And it's not necessarily on these types of things. I mean, but in your case, you are you're very successful. You just have a certain standard of what you want for who's going to be your partner. And
is this an ad now? No, just kidding. Should we put my number down?
Are we single? She's single, guys. Yes, and gorgeous.
Thank you.
That's right. And I think she lives in a pretty nice house. But I'm just saying, you know, you're going to have all those sugar babies coming after you now.
Oh, God. Yeah, take a number.
She's like karate chopping them away. No, but it's difficult to be a professional career woman and be out there and, you know, looking for a certain partnership. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So when you're in a business, you're going to have partners and people that you work with who your relationship with them is going to greatly affect your financial success, right? In a business, I'm saying you need to know, is that person reliable? Do they complete the things that they promise to complete? Do they really put a lot into right? Do they put a lot into what they're passionate about? And I think it's very similar in the same way when you're getting married. You want to have somebody who is a partner with you, and you kind of find out about those types of things, so that you know that you both know where you want to go in the future. Work that stuff out first, and you know, it is a partnership. It is actually you have to realize that it does affect your survival in terms of your financial existence. Like you're being fed and you're actually living this is greatly affected by, you know, those decisions and working together.
Yeah, I always say any partnership, I always like to work backward, even a business partnership. Let's talk about how we're going to divvy up this business before we start. Because, you know, people change in business partnerships too. You know, you start making a little money and, you know.
And you're always shocked. You're like, I can't believe they want this. They're doing that. Oh my God.
So it's always better to get it on paper.
Yeah. So you do with businesses?
I do a lot of like operating agreements for businesses, bylaw agreements.
What's bylaw agreements?
Well, you know, you have corporations and then you have LLCs. So the corporation will have an operating agreement, and LLC will have bylaws, or that's the other way around. Sorry.
Okay.
And then I do buy-sell agreements. So what happens when one of the members passes away? That's a really important one, because sometimes one member is the face of the business, or they're the ones that are actually getting their hands dirty, and there's one that's just a financial backer. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you need to get life insurance on that partner, you have it. There's so many different, your head will explode if I like go into detail about all the things that go into establishing a business partnership. But these are all important conversations to have before you start a business with anyone.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Blew my mind. Man, that's a lot of stuff to have to think about.
I know. That's why I'm here. To help you.
You can just and can they just call you on your radio show?
Yes, my radio show is coming back soon. It's going to be on Talk Radio 790 KBC every Saturday at 5 p.m. and it will be a live show, Love, Death, and Money with attorney Naz Barouti.
That's so cool. That's awesome. You guys should definitely check it out and go follow her. She always posts empowering videos and like woman power.
I do Fearless Fridays and Legal Tip Tuesdays. So,
That's right.
Follow me for that.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So yeah, let's wrap it up with some stories about how you got into this. And I know we actually had you on the show a long time ago, back when my show was first starting, like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear it again. How did you become a lawyer? Why did you become a lawyer?
I always wanted to be a lawyer. When I was younger, I did not watch cartoons. I watched Judge Judy instead. And I love Judge Judy, and I don't care what anyone says. And I ran into her in Neiman Marcus like a year or two ago, and I cried when I met her, and it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. And she's like, "What's your name?" I'm like,
You were
I was like, "I love you." She was like, "Who is this freak? Like, where is security?" But no, I loved her so much, and I always wanted to be a lawyer, so there was no question in my mind. And I knew I didn't want to work for anyone. I'm a type
How
A
were you as a
personality.
kid?
Type A.
You were just
crazy,
like,
tomboy.
Do you talk to your dad and you're just like, listen, Dad.
Listen, Dad, this is what... Dad, I call him by his first name. I'd be like, listen, Tony, this is what you're going to do. And like,
I knew it.
There's no negotiating in this.
I could totally envision this.
Yeah, you know, my dad...
And you were a tomboy and I was tomboy, which
yes,
I think is cool.
this is why we get along.
This is definitely true.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's another story.
Yeah, but I, I was raised, in a Middle Eastern family, but my dad raised me in a very... like masculine way. Like he treated me like a son he never
That's
had.
a whole nother thing because
Yeah.
the women in the Armenian community, for example, are treated in a very different way than the men. Like,
Yes.
Okay, shoot, we're running out of time, man.
Well, you have to ask me to come back again.
I know. We'll just have to come back again. So I'm just amazed with what you've accomplished.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and your success. And I hope everyone goes and checks out the new book. And ladies out there, definitely get yourself educated and call her if you have questions so you can make sure that you're taken care of. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.